I can't keep making excuses for you, bro. What's going on? Hi guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I can't believe we're already like mid-November. The fall is just flying by. I hate it. It's going by too fast. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name's Sarah. I make fantasy content. I recap shows, movies, books. And if you aren't subscribed already, don't forget to do so just so you don't miss out on any videos in the series. We are hitting the midpoint of season 6 today. I hope you guys are ready. It's an eventful couple episodes, to say the least. Without further ado though, let's get into episode 10. So episode 10 opens with confirmation that Rick and Joe are aware they are dating. Thank God, we finally got there. Joe is at the hospital. She's helping these kids that have come in an accident. They're all covered in blood. One of the girls wakes up and she's asking questions, trying to figure out what happened, but the girl can't talk. And then behind Joe, it is such a scary, it's so scary. It's got no business being as spooky as it is. So Joe is trying to frantically figure out what is going on and why this girl is freaking out so badly, but the girl is so scared she can't talk. And then behind Joe's shoulder, we see Kai sit up on one of the beds, and he comes over to Joe, grabs her, and goes, "I stabbed her," and then knocks Joe out. The gang's back in Mystic Falls for Christmas, and Bonnie has her long hair again. Just kidding, it's a flashback. Bonnie is alone in the prison world, setting up a Christmas tree in the parking lot because it's tree lighting day. Caroline isn't feeling like she wants to celebrate because she can't go home to be with her mom, so when she gets back to the dorm, Liz is there and she's planning on like decorating the dorm with Caroline. Stefan also shows up to help because Liz is an evil genius and she invited him. Elena and Damon are looking into info about the ascendant and how they could help Bonnie, but they're not finding anything. She is, however, getting very flirty with Damon. Rick calls in a panic because Joe is missing. She disappeared from the hospital and nobody can find her. Damon's like, back to my original plan. We're just gonna kill Kai. But Tyler has joined the dark side and he is planning on ensuring that Kai stays alive so that Kai can force Joe to merge with him, ensuring that Liv and Luke stay safe. Matt and Jeremy lie and say, of course we'll help look for the crazy mass murderer and Rick's missing girlfriend, no problem. But really they're hunting Enzo for sport. So it turns out that the knife Joe hid her magic in is missing. Kai already went looking for it and couldn't find it. So he wants Liv and Luke to do a locator spell so that they can find it, and then he can force Joe to get her magic back and then merge with her. Luke is standing by the Gemini coven. He's like, this is not what we're supposed to allow to happen. Okay, letting him become the leader is crazy nonsense behavior. We have to do our job, Liv. But Liv, as I mentioned before, is like, no, I don't see how it's fair for us, the younger siblings, to do anything when our older siblings were supposed to do it for us. Damon is like, joke's on everybody. I had the knife all along. I'm the one who took it from Portland. But when he opens up his little secret hiding spot, it's missing. Cut to a random like crypt location in the cemetery, and Kai is there with the knife, and Luke and Liv are there, and Joe is also there, but she's very much unconscious right now. Caroline wants to know why Stefan can't take the hint and leave her alone, because she keeps asking him to do that and he's just not listening. He insists that he's trying to make it up to her, and then Liz gets dizzy and almost passes out. Back to the cemetery with the Parker siblings, this is the episode where Kai starts calling Joe Sissy. As a big sister, I both love and hate it because this is what my little brother called me growing up. So part of me is like, ow, and then the other part of me is like, leave her alone. So Joe wakes up, and after some awkward hellos amongst the four of them, Kai whips out the knife again and stabs her in the arm with it because he's trying to like force the magic back into her. It doesn't work, so he stabs her a second time. Luke tries to stop him, but then Kai just turns the knife on him and he says something like, I tried to kill you when your brain was the size of an acorn. You think I won't do it again now? So Luke leaves because he refuses to watch Joe be hurt. Joe explains that it has to be her choice to take the magic back into herself because it was her choice to put it in the knife in the first place, and also now that he stabbed her, she's gonna bleed out in approximately 30 minutes, which wouldn't it be so funny and silly and goofy if he kills her on accident before she can even merge with him? This is very upsetting to Kai because remember, he doesn't think through his actions, so he shouldn't have stabbed her in the first place, and yet he did, and he stands up to Liv and he's like, I'm gonna go get a bandage. Figure out how to get the magic back into her before I get back, okay? Elena meets with Caroline at the hospital while Liz is getting examined, and the two of them bond over the fact that it's heartbreaking that Bonnie is alone on Christmas. Damon calls Tyler and he's like, listen, Wolf Boy, this has your particular brand of stupidity written all over it. You're working with Kai, aren't you? You're all trying to like pull one over on us and get rid of Joe. This is ridiculous and stupid. Tyler hangs up on him. And then Damon runs into Luke and tells Luke the same thing. He's like, are you insane? Like, you can't trust him. You can't work with him. What's wrong with you? And because Luke already felt that way, he agrees to help Damon. Stefan tells Elena that it turns out Liz has cancer. They actually found it when Liz got brought in after Tripp's men kind of hurt her and they thought maybe she had a concussion. No, she was dizzy because she has cancer. But she's been keeping it from Caroline because she didn't want to ruin Christmas. Matt tricks Enzo into meeting up with him, saying that he's going to give him information about Monique, but it's actually a blank file, and before Enzo can react, Jeremy jumps out and kidnaps him. Jeremy thought they were just gonna stake him and kill him quickly, but Matt Donovan is cracked out of his mind now, so he's ready to brutally torture Enzo and then drag him over the border and have him die in town. Jeremy refuses and says he won't be a part of it and leaves. Joe tries to comfort Liv and like play the big sister card, but like, Miss Ma'am, you abandoned them to your abusive father for 18 years. I don't think it's gonna work. Sure enough, Liv is like, yeah, no, I don't feel bad for you because this is your job. This is why you were born. We were replacements for your mistake. Like, you need to be strong enough to beat Kai because I'm not losing Luke for you. Joe at first refuses to believe that she could ever be strong enough to beat Kai because his siphon powers would overwhelm her. That's what they've always been told. But Liv is like, do you not understand how badass you are? Like, you built this entire life for yourself without magic. You did it completely the human way on your own. You can beat our brother. Kai shows up and snatches a little bit of Liv's magic and then starts torturing her with her own magic and like threatening to kill her because he still needs either Luke or Liv to be dead if Joe's not going to merge with him. So then Joe grabs the knife and takes her magic back into herself. Rick and Damon are working together again, even though Rick is still deeply pissed about the whole compulsion situation. Kai holds Joe's face to double check that her magic is back, and then he makes fun of her for giving up so easily just to save Liv. Outside the crypt, Damon whistles, and because Kai is nothing if not an overconfident idiot, he just strolls outside. I think he's got a baseball bat or something. They get into a pretty rough fight because remember, Kai took some of Liv's magic, so he's still powerful in this moment. But then Rick jumps out and snatches Kai and like puts a gun to his head, and he is about to kill him. Damon is like, amazing, take the shot, it's time, we're done with you, stupid demon boy. And then Joe comes running out and she's like, no, 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 don't do that. If you do that, then Luke and Liv still have to merge. I'm strong enough, I can beat him. So Rick just like knocks him out instead, and Kai just like falls over. Tyler goes off on Luke to the point where Liv has to get in between them and stop them from killing each other. Luke has this iconic line of being like, if we don't stop him, he will win the merge and then he will kill all of us and then he'll start killing innocents because he's crazy and bored and homicidal. Stefan takes it upon himself to be the one to tell Caroline about her mom's cancer. He considers it punishment for having hurt her. Rick and Joe bond over how crazy batshit this whole merge situation is, and they have a real sweet moment together. They really, truly care about each other. This is why she's my favorite love interest for him. Damon ties Kai up on the anti-magic border because he's a fucking idiot. And then he starts pelting him with rocks and teasing him. Kai starts asking questions about how the border works and how weird it is that Mystic Falls just like can't have any magic in it anymore. And Damon, being an idiot, tells him that it was a spell done by like a bunch of travelers, and when they send Kai to hell, he can just ask them there. So Kai's like, wow, that must have been a really big spell. And then he sinks his sexy little ring-covered fingers into the ground and starts siphoning up the traveler magic spell. I want you to just think about how much magic that is. It covers the whole town. Bad idea. Do you think Damon notices? Not until it's too late. Why would he be paying attention? All alone, Bonnie puts up a Christmas tree in the parking lot. Don't forget she's by herself and sad. Remember how there's that flashback to like past Christmases in the beginning of the episode? The flashbacks have really just been centered on Liz and Caroline and like the last Christmas they had together before their lives went to shit. Stefan goes to Caroline and tells her the truth about what's happening to Liz, and she does not handle it well. Kai starts throwing a spooky witch tantrum and just making a giant storm because he now has the magic from a spell that covered an entire town. It's such a bad storm that it cuts out cell reception. Like, y'all remember when that happened when the Traveler spell was activated? It's happening again. Remember how Matt was driving Enzo back into Mystic Falls? Yeah, well, Enzo wakes up in the back of the van. Damon finally realizes that Kai has stopped talking right around the time he realizes that Kai is chanting now and his chains are melting into the ground. Matt drives into town and parks right on the other side of the border, and Enzo starts dying in the back of the van. Kai finishes his chanting and starts to smile. That is never a good thing. Matt throws open the doors to the back of the van, and you guessed it, Enzo is alive and angrier than ever. He snatches Matt by the throat and goes, "Wow, it's a Christmas miracle." Damon calls Kai a freaky little magic sucker, which he's gotta know was gonna be triggering, because then Kai starts throwing Damon and Rick around the cemetery like little rag dolls, and then he vanishes because remember, the Parkers like to be invisible. Enzo didn't kill Matt because our old boy is not as crazy as he would like you to think he is, and Matt's not his enemy. In fact, Enzo explains that as punishment for what he tried to do, Matt is now going to help Enzo in his quest to find out Stefan's secrets and ruin his life. Then after that, Enzo will decide if Matt can live or not. Elena calls Damon and says that she had a horrible day and she really wants to see him. And he's like, "Girl, come over to the house. I will make you dinner right now." Sad scene of Stefan talking to Caroline. She's freaking out. She's like, "I'll just give my mom some of her blood." And Stefan's like, "Caroline, sweetie, don't you think if vampire blood could cure cancer, we would know that by now? It doesn't work." We get a nice shot of Stefan sitting with Caroline and holding her when she starts to cry. The tumor is too aggressive, and it's also like on her brainstem already, so there's no treatment options, and Liz is dying. An equally heartbreaking scene, in the prison world, Bonnie is standing in front of the tree all by herself, saying that she misses everybody, and Jeremy is the only one at the tree lighting ceremony in Mystic Falls saying he misses Bonnie. So they're in the same spot, just separated between the worlds. I don't want to be here anymore. Damon's getting ready for Elena to come over, and then he hears rumbling from outside. He goes out, and his car is in the driveway. Turns out while Stefan was like hiding out, working as a mechanic, he was fixing Damon's car for him. Once they go back inside, Stefan agrees that he is in fact going to stay in town with the gang. He definitely can't leave Caroline now, is what it boils down to. Elena knocks on the door to the house, and Damon opens it to let her in. There's mistletoe hanging from the doorway, so she teases him about it, and she's like, "Was that a little trap for me?" But Damon goes, "Hello? Anybody there?" Yeah, he can't see her, y'all. It's almost like she's invisible. So Kai pops up behind her and he's like, "Hey, so sorry, that's actually my fault. I'm cloaking both of us right now. I'm getting pretty good at the cloaking spells, don't you think?" Then he knocks her out with like a crowbar or something, and we cut to black. He's got this awful, terrible habit of like cracking his neck evilly in moments like this. So like the last shot is him like and then like smiling at the camera. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but he does it a lot. So I need you all to suffer through that with me. Also, yes, it is getting really, really hard to explain my feelings about this fucking menace to you guys, okay? I'm doing my best. Yeah, so Kai kidnapped Elena. She comes to tied up in a chair at a table in the grill, and Kai is like across the table from her, just like chatting away while he eats dinner. He explains that he is quite literally just overflowing with this traveler magic to the point where his magic is like fairly uncontrollable. This scene where he explains that he accidentally killed the grill manager because he can't fully control himself and the guy wouldn't let him in because he had Elena unconscious over his shoulder is just like top tier entertainment, like no notes. So yeah, he basically needs to like drain off some of this excess magic, siphon it from himself, if you will, and he's decided that he is going to practice his spells on Elena because she's a vampire and it would be really, really hard to kill her, and also a little bit fun. The scene ends with him pulling a Voldemort and revealing a body on the table because once again, what do the Parkers love? Invisibility. So yeah, the grill manager is just dead on the table in front of Elena and he was cloaking him. Moving on, Stefan wakes up back at home because remember he's decided to stay at the house again, and Liv and Joe are downstairs in his living room practicing magic. He's like, why exactly is this happening here in the morning? And Joe is like, oh, Damon said we could be here. He said no one would mind. Damon's visiting Liz in the hospital because remember, that's his bestie. Rick, Enzo, Liz, those are his best friends. He tells her about Elena standing him up because he thinks Elena just bailed. They haven't put together yet that Kai has Elena. And Liz puts out another all call hoping that the sheriff's department can help find Kai. Caroline then brings Liz home and gets her settled back at the house with Stefan's help. There's a really sad moment here where we realize that this is the first time Stefan has ever watched somebody die from like natural causes, because remember, he starts over every couple decades because people realize he's not aging, so he's never stayed close enough to a human to just watch them pass away. Caroline heads over to Duke University to get a second opinion from a doctor over there, and Stefan goes with her because remember, the real Sarah Salvatore goes to Duke. Elena wakes up a second time. Now she's chained to a ceiling in the high school. Kai tries to turn her blood into acid, but accidentally melts her ring instead. She is devastated because that daylight ring is like the last thing that Bonnie made for her, so she starts freaking out. He follows her into the science lab. She goes X Games mode and lights her own hand on fire and then like ignites a stream of gas, because remember they're in the science lab, and it makes an explosion that knocks him out. Damon comes home to find Joe still failing to learn her basic spells. Also, Liv is now wearing his shirt because Joe burned hers and they've taken over his house. His phone rings and he goes, "Magic Camp, how may I help you?" And it is my favorite Damon line, maybe ever. It's Elena, frantically telling him that she's trapped at the school with Kai. Kai catches her, so she has to hang up the phone and run away, but his magic is still acting up, so it takes him 3 times to successfully snap her neck and knock her unconscious, and then we get a moment of him being like, yes, I did it. Stefan and Caroline get to Duke, and she goes to meet with the doctor, and he goes to see Sarah's art exhibit, and freaking Enzo shows up! Caroline meets with the doctor and compels the lady to tell her the truth and do her best to like help Liz. The lady looks at her charts and says that there is no option medically that they could do. She actually has a patient in pretty similar condition to Liz, and they've just told him that like there's no more options left, and Caroline asks to see that guy. Elena wakes up a third and final time to see Kai wearing the Timberwolves shirt. It's one of my favorite looks on this dude. Being herself, Elena decides to try to reach out to him and see if she can connect and find out if there's really nobody he's ever cared about. He proceeds to tell her about one of his little brothers that he actually was kind of close to, and they like played video games together, and the little brother always won, and like one of Kai's favorite memories is like finally beating him at the game, followed closely by his second favorite memory, which was beating him to death. Kai, we were so close. He tells Elena not to waste her energy on him because he read somewhere that the most important thing is that you like yourself, and he likes himself, so it's not a big deal. Liv does a cloaking spell on Damon so he can sneak into the school and save Elena. But she vanishes. And then Luke shows up, apologizes, and also vanishes. So Joe steps in and agrees to do the cloaking spell, but she's not as strong as Liv and Luke and Kai, so she's gonna have to go inside the school with Damon and stay with him while she does the spell. Luke took Liv because their awesome dad of the year is freaking out and wants them to come home. Liv blows up at him and she's like, "You don't even understand what you just did. You just cloaked me and I couldn't stop it, meaning that I am not as strong as you, and if we do the merge, you are confirmed going to kill me." This like absolutely breaks Luke's heart because he's definitely been ignoring this truth about himself and the fact that he's the stronger twin for a while now, so now they're both devastated. Caroline goes to see the patient that's dying of the same cancer that Liz has. She realizes that he has no next of kin, and so fairly selfishly decides to give him her blood as like a test to see if it will work. Kai starts drawing little Ks on Elena's cheek with his magic. I know. Damon and Joe get into the school to hunt for Kai, and they're bickering so intensely, like a bunch of idiots, that they don't hear him coming down the hallway. They're like coming from this way, and he starts coming from this way, and they don't hear him until he is literally right in front of them. But the spell works, and he walks away. Back at that art show at Duke, Enzo threatens to introduce himself to Sarah if Stefan doesn't tell him what on earth is going on. So Stefan spills the beans and is like, look, I hid her from Damon because Damon is an unhinged murderer and I didn't trust him with the knowledge that she was alive. Caroline calls Stefan freaking out and begs him to come meet her, and Enzo backs off. Damon and Joe get to Elena and get her free, but Elena can't just go running off outside because her ring is gone and it's daytime. Also, Joe's starting to bleed from her nose because the spell is too much for her and she's starting to die. Liv tells Tyler the truth about how if they merge, Luke will definitely kill her, and she can't run because her family is insane and they will hunt her. He gets mad and is like, well then just go home then. If you refuse to run, why don't you just go home? And she gets all upset and she's like, this is why it was a mistake to be with you. I knew it was going to be too painful. Then they both get sad because they lash out when they're angry, and he hugs her while she cries. Luke shows up, also crying, and he's like, okay, so I called Dad and I stood up to him and I told him that I refused to do the merge if it means ever hurting my sister. And they're all just crying in the dorm. It's a moment. Joe collapses into Damon's arms. The spell breaks and Kai catches them. So the way this scene is happening, Kai is down here on one end of the hallway. Damon and Joe and Elena are here, okay? Elena is hurt. She is not in like fighting shape. Damon is fighting shape, okay? Joe collapsed, about to die at any moment. Kai overflowing with magic still, okay? Absolutely. He could handle all three of them. What does he do? He lets Joe leave. Suddenly, Elena disappears and Damon's like, what? Where did she go? And Kai's like, are we not cloaking people anymore? I thought that's what we were doing. I thought that was our thing. So the boys get into a fight in the hallway and Damon stabs Kai with the end of a mop handle, except it's not Kai, it's Elena. Not only is our boy getting better and better at cloaking spells, he's also getting better at illusions. Elena starts to pass out and Kai barbecues Damon so that he can go after Joe. He catches her in the hallway. She's like running away basically on her hands and knees, and he like bends down and like snatches her up and starts dragging her with him. But before they can get very far, baby Gilbert shows up and shoots him with a crossbow. And then Rick jumps out and shoots him with a sedative, knocking Kai out so that Rick can then hold Joe, because remember, she is not doing well. The guy Caroline gave her blood to is up and running about and acting like his cancer is healed. She's thrilled to death, but Stefan is like, I'm a little concerned. It feels a little too easy. Damon digs out the wood from Elena's chest wound, and she's like, no, there's still a piece in there. I can feel it. If you have anything to say to me, Damon, you need to say it now. And he's like, what are you talking about? There's nothing else inside of you. I've gotten it out. I've gotten all the splinters out. She starts laughing because it was a joke. Earlier on in the episode, Kai called her a crazy pants. I would like to say that personally, I agree. Rick asks if she's okay, and she says she's never felt more alive. Which is cute, I guess. Enzo is back at the gallery, tormenting the poor art professor with his like terrifying backstory and basically being like, yeah, I'm a mass murdering vampire who was tortured for so many years. Is that weird? Like, do you think that's weird? I don't think it's weird. I think I'm normal. And the lady's just like, okay, and well, what can I do for you, sir? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take my time on this revenge. I'd like to buy all of Sarah's paintings, please. What? So the gang has decided that the best course of action is to tie Kai up on the couch at Rick's apartment and just leave him there until the magic from the Traveler's Spell drains out of him. Elena invites Damon on another date. Things are getting real steamy between the two of them. Rick tries to bond with Damon about how cool and badass their girlfriends are, but Damon is like, Rick, you need to look me in the eyes and hear me when I say this. Joe cannot beat Kai. And Rick's like, what are you talking about? She's getting stronger every day. Of course she can do it. We have to believe in her. And Damon's like, okay, sure. Stefan tells Caroline the truth about Sarah and what was happening with Enzo, and Caroline is like, oh my god, that's so sweet that you look after her even if she doesn't know you're there. That's adorable and not stalkerish at all. Thank you for sharing the secret with me, Stefan. He holds her hand, all cute, as if he doesn't know that she still has a crush on him, you terrible boy. She tells her mom what she found out at Duke, and Liz kind of reluctantly agrees to try the vampire way since there's nothing they can do medically. But we cut back to that hospital patient. He's in his room alone, freaking out, very sick. Caroline gives her mom blood and she drinks it. Caroline is sleeping in a chair in Liz's room so she can keep an eye on her. She hears somebody in the house and goes downstairs. When she opens the door, the cancer patient is there and he's like, "Caroline Forbes, what did you do to me?" She calls Stefan and he comes over hella concerned. They've got Colin, the guy's name is Colin, he's on the couch. Stefan pulls back the curtain and Colin starts to burn, meaning he's a vampire. So that means that the blood didn't work, he died and then came back as a vampire. Except he's still sick. We go back to Rick's living room. Kai has now been upgraded from the couch to a literal hospital bed in the middle of like the dining room. Damon has been brought in to babysit him, which I'm sure we can all agree is a wonderful idea, and I bet nothing will go wrong there. Liv and Tyler wake up together in bed. They're discussing where they should go for break while school's out. Then somebody starts knocking on the door. They frantically get up and start getting dressed. It's her dad. He's early to take her to dinner because it's her birthday. At the hospital, Joe tries to do a little spell to make a plant come back to life, except it doesn't work. So her magic is not getting any better, and it's certainly not getting better very quickly. Stefan comes stumbling into the hospital with Colin. After doing some tests, they find out that for some reason the vampire blood didn't stop the cancer. It instead made it grow quicker. So now he's a vampire in constant pain, unable to die, but dying at the same time. They're all there, and Damon is like, "Why do we even care what happens to him?" And Liz is like, "Because Caroline gave me her blood last night, and if we don't figure it out, the same thing's gonna happen to me." Elena gives Stefan shit about letting Caroline give her mom the blood. I see now why everybody thought that she would blame Rick for her memories getting taken, because she stays putting the blame on the wrong people. Joe gets the idea to do a full blood transfusion with human blood to try to flush the vampire blood out of their systems. There's nothing she can do magically, so her witch powers are like null and void. They're just hoping for the best, but it doesn't work. Damon is deep in his feelings over Liz being sick. He is so upset. Caroline is beating herself up because she feels like Liz dying quicker is all her fault, which it is. But Stefan is like, "No, you did what you thought was best, and you took a chance and it didn't work out." Luke and Liv meet up. They're both dressed up. Luke is like, "You are definitely wearing too much makeup. You know he doesn't like when you do that." And Liv is like, "Yeah, well, you're in a full suit, so one of us went a little overkill, okay?" They're not talking about going to birthday dinner with their dad that they love so much. No. They're talking about having a meeting with the all-powerful leader of the Gemini Coven and trying to convince him to not make them do the merge. And they are shitting bricks, okay? These children are terrified of their father. Colin starts freaking out and trying to hurt himself. It's so sad. He says he can hear his cancer growing and he's losing his mind. He's begging them to help him die, so Damon rips his heart out. He turns to Caroline and says the quiet part out loud again, which is that she basically killed Liz. Stefan then finds Caroline hiding out at the florist, trying to pick an arrangement for Liz's funeral. Stefan drops a convenient little piece of lore, which is that when him and Damon were kids, their mom was also dying. She got really sick, and he sort of avoided that being a reality and would try to bring her food or her favorite books or flowers and not just spend time with her. And then when she got really sick, their dad sent her away and she died alone somewhere else, and he never got to say goodbye. He gently encourages her to come hang out with Liz and spend time with her while she's still alive, and they hold hands. Joshua Parker is nothing if not the scum of the freaking earth. So he's pissed at Luke and Liv for not wanting to do the merge, and he's basically like, "Oh, so you're refusing your duty to the family in the coven? You're just sentencing everybody in the coven to death when I die because you don't want to do your job?" I didn't tell y'all this yet, but another batshit piece of being in the Gemini Coven, not only do you have to do the freaky twin merge ritual thing, okay, but the leader, the said living twin at any given point, their life is tied to everybody else in the coven. So if anything happens to them, everyone dies. Tell me that's not unhinged behavior. Who decided that? Luke's like, "But you're healthy and fine. And right now we've got Kai on ice and Joe's getting better every day. We don't have to rush." But again, Joshua is like, "This is what you were born to do. This is your job. Do your job." He goes on and on about how the twin that dies doesn't really die, and instead their traits are like absorbed into the other twin, so they like live on together forever in like a weird symbiotic way. It just keeps getting worse. Like, that doesn't make me feel better about it, my guy. Luke is like, well, Dad, I'm gonna be the one that wins, and we all know it, okay? So I refuse, because I'm not gonna hurt her. Damon comes home to find Tyler in Rick's house unhooking Kai from the hospital bed. Damon slaps him around a little bit and is like, no, bad dog, we don't let the freaky little magic siphon go whenever we... Hold on. Idea, I could kiss you, Tyler, you big stupid genius. Then he grabs the sedative out of Kai, puts it into Tyler, which is terrible. Do not share needles. And knocks Tyler out. You guys want to see Oliver real fast? He's watching me, and I'm going to pick him up and show him to you, because I don't think you guys have seen him in a while, and he is huge. Look at this. That's a fully grown cat right there, guys. He doesn't like the lights. He's 7 months old, and he's huge. You can't even really see him all the way. I know, it's very bright. I'm sorry. Damon uses Tyler's phone to call Liv and asks to talk to Papa Parker, which... I hate that nickname for him. He wants to know if the current Mercury-Venus conjunction would be enough to hold the freaky merge ceremony. Joshua's like, yeah? Why are you asking? Damon's like, oh, well, I just conveniently woke up your oldest, and he's about to be like on the loose hunting for your daughter, so I suggest you merge the blonde twins quickly if that's what you want to do. So Kai wakes up and he's immediately like, ugh, trying to get Damon, but his magic is gone from the Traveler spell. Damon explains that he knows where he can get more magic, and Kai's like, yeah, why not? They take Kai to Liz to suck out the vampire magic from her, hoping that that will slow down the cancer situation. He makes a silly little joke in this moment, and Liz is like, just get on with it, Kai. Listening to you talk makes me want to die, which is very dramatic, okay? But he loves it, and he laughs, and he's like, she is so funny. And then he grabs her and starts siphoning the magic out. This is one of those moments that proves that the siphon power doesn't have to hurt the person that it's being used on. I'm leaving you guys with that knowledge. Just tuck it away for now. You won't need it for many months, but keep it where you can think about it. Jo comes into the room and she's like, what in the fuck? Why is he here? So Damon has to quickly take her outside and explain his little plan. Except his little plan is terrible. Basically, in exchange for agreeing to get the magic out of Liz, Kai's decided he wants to merge with Jo that night. We go back into Kai finishing up with Liz, but she is too weak, so the drain of like the vampire magic being taken from her causes her to have a heart attack. In the chaos of that happening and Liz basically dying in front of Elena, Kai turns invisible, because of course he does, and he gets away. Jo is like, broski, I'm not ready to merge. Are you insane? And Damon's like, don't worry, it's all taken care of. And then Kai magically snaps his neck, Damon drops, and Kai snatches Jo. Jo says in this moment, I've spent my whole life running from you. I'm not running anymore. And Kai gives her this look like, okay. And I have to agree with him, because what is this? That doesn't look like running, Jo. Joshua starts walking the twins home, and he tells them that he's so proud of them and the lives that they've built and the friends that they've made. And he promises to think about and consider not making them do the merge because they're family. But then when they take his hands, he starts the spell because he's awful. So he's forcing the merge on them, and even though they're fighting it, Liv is getting sicker and sicker and draining so quickly because the dad's really strong. But then Tyler shows up and just freaking beats the shit out of Joshua. He just knocks him unconscious with his bare hands. Liv is freaking out, so is Luke. He starts to leave, and Liv is like, where are you going? We have to stay together. And he's like, do you trust me? I'll be right back. And he leaves. Kai takes Jo to a park that I assume is somewhere near the hospital so that they can be under those planets. Remember, Mercury-Venus conjunction, that's happening. He says, if you're tricking me again, I will take more than your spleen this time. She calls him a parasite, says he destroyed her life, and now she's gonna destroy his. They start the merge spell, which is basically them like cutting their palms and then like joining hands. They didn't do that the first time. So as they start chanting, magic starts swirling around, and then Jo passes out. Kai's like, excuse me? Luke runs up and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I just gave my big sister a magical bump on the head. I'm gonna merge with you, buddy. Kai starts laughing and he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, little brother, but we're not twins and we're not the same age. And Luke's like, actually, I just turned 22. And because you were trapped in the prison world, you're still basically 22 and we're from the same bloodline. So I think it'll work and we should try it. Kai's like, no, Absolutely not. I'm not risking it on something that we don't know will work. Luke's like, oh, you think I can beat you? You're afraid to just play chicken against somebody that you think could win? And Kai is like, it's your funeral. And they start the spell again. I just want to say that the height difference between the two boys in this scene breaks my heart. It makes me so sad. Liz is flatlining. Elena is doing CPR. The merge spell with the boys gets real freaky. Their magic starts doing that thing where it like ripples through their veins and you can see it like moving through them and like on their faces. Their eyes open and they're like filmed over with white. Joe wakes up and starts freaking out trying to stop them, but it's too late. They finish chanting and they're holding hands and they both just like pass out. We go into Liz's mind and see her like having these like hallucination memories where she's packing up Caroline's things into a suitcase and then going downstairs and calling for Caroline, telling her that she's leaving and it's time for her to go. They freaking lose Liz, guys. She dies right before Caroline comes running into the room. This is so traumatizing. I cry every time. Caroline is begging her not to go and Elena is sobbing and Damon and Stefan are just standing there watching in horror. We go back into Liz's head. She sees Caroline now and she's like, sweetie, do you want to say goodbye? It's time for me to go. Caroline, do you hear me? And when she turns Caroline around, Caroline's like scary vampire daughter with like blood all over her face, and it scares Liz so badly that she wakes up in Caroline's arms. So Elena runs out of the room. We can all imagine that this would be especially very traumatizing for her. Damon follows her to check on her and she ends up kissing him and lights flash in the window behind them. And I'm just gonna say that I think that's when Luke and Kai finished the spell and the lights exploded. Liz wakes up fully to Caroline still sitting with her and she tells her that she really wants her to stop beating herself up because Liz doesn't blame her. Stefan's watching from the door. He brought Caroline a coffee and Liz wants one, so she asks Caroline to go get one for her. Once Caroline leaves, Liz makes Stefan promise that when she dies, he'll take care of Caroline and he won't leave her again. Stefan agrees, and then we see Caroline listening from the doorway. Joe is still holding Luke in the park, but our boy ain't waking up. Damon comes up and he's like, oh good, you're still alive. That'll keep Rick from hating me. Except Joe is not okay. She's absolutely devastated and pissed that this happened at all because Luke was never supposed to come. And it's Damon's fault. Damon realizes how insensitive he's being and is immediately like, oh okay, I'm so sorry. Let me give him some of my blood. But Joe's like, no, you idiot. That won't help him now, okay? It's up to them. Whoever wakes up is the winner. Luke takes a breath. We cut to Liv trying to call Luke, but he won't answer. Joshua freaking wakes up and realizes what's happened because he was the leader and he can like feel it because the coven's all connected. So in Joe's arms, Luke wakes up and opens his eyes and everything. We go back to Joshua and he's freaking out. He tells Liv that they have to leave immediately because Luke died and Kai won. Tyler refuses to let Liv go and Liv's like, yeah, no, Dad, I'm not going with you. I'm staying with him. Joshua runs off like the little rat man he is back to the coven. Liv breaks down sobbing in Tyler's arms. Heartbreaking. Joe is absolutely distraught, holding yet another dead sibling in her arms. I'm the oldest of 4. I hate this. Anyway, Kai wakes up and he's like, you win some, you lose some. Except for me. I always win. And then he vanishes. Why does he gotta look so good when he's being so damn evil? That's what I want to know. That's what I would like to know. That is gonna do it for this week's Mystic Falls gossip session. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment down below. I love talking to you guys each week. I hope you're all doing so well. My socials are linked down below as well if you want to connect anywhere else. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you so soon. Have a good one. Bye!